we're working with legal aid, we would really like to do some training with them, for free, because we think these skills might really be helpful to their clients. For one thing, it keeps them out of court. It could probably reduce the amount of time they have to spend on the case because they're moving straight toward trying to resolve the issues. And that's kind of an exciting thing. And we'll talk a little bit about that in this training, but on the first day, as I said, we're focusing on the generic things, the paradigm shift, the use of the participation agreement or the withdrawal agreement, depending on what you call it wherever you are, interest-based negotiation, because that's an underpinning of how we get things resolved. We're going to talk about identify all of the various roles that we're aware of right now, which goes from the collaborative law attorney, the mental health person as a coach, divorce coach, grief coach, and probate. Any kind of coach, in any kind of setting. We're going to talk about the mediator as being, say, a communication coach, or a mental health person as being a communication coach, and maybe being a facilitator in one of these larger civil cases where if you have a construction case, you're going to have a lot of stakeholders. You're going to have the various insurance companies. You might have corporate counsel from the various vendors, and so it could be quite unwieldy if you don't have someone that has the ability to serve as a facilitator. So we're going to, make them aware of that. Everything that has a commonality to it. On the second day, we're going to split into 2 tracks. The first track is going to be the family track, which we're pretty familiar with. And the type of training that we do, we take an actual case that we know a lot about. We have people who are enrolled to do demonstrations. Some of them are on video, some of them are live, and we go through the case from the initial meeting with the client to the 4-way, which is where the participation agreement is signed and the team is selected, and then onward and upward to meeting with the coaches, meeting with the child specialist if they're children, meeting with the financial person. And then we move them into role plays and actually get them, experiencing what it feels like not only to be the professional, but what it feels like to be the client. I think people usually share that being put in a position of being the client is their greatest learning opportunity because they actually get to, experience what the client is experiencing. In the other track, the civil track, Sherry will be heading that up. And there are quite a few things that have to be taken into consideration that we don't have to take into consideration in family, because you have to identify the stakeholders, who are the people who have the power. She's developed this whole set of protocols, which are forms that you can use with checklists and different things like that, that will help you sort of manage the case. But this would be a situation where you would really probably need a case manager. That could be a mediator, or it could be a case facilitator, someone that is going to direct the group, because there could be a large number of parties. And when we get into these multi-party meetings, it can become chaos. So you have to really talk together, get an agenda, set some goals so that the outcome is meaningful. And a lot of that is done through training. We include training on team. There are all kinds of teams, but some of them aren't effective. And we talk about the reasons why they're not effective, how to share power. It's very difficult for professionals, and I will say especially lawyers, to share power. So that's something that they have to learn. They have to be invested in this common goal, because the ultimate team is not only the one that resolves the issues and meets the goals of the parties, but they derive personal satisfaction from that experience. Well, I can only speak about it from my perspective and also from things that I hear, but I know when we do training, we have a questionnaire, and we always ask them about, what are the things you enjoyed most, what are the things you didn't like, and inevitably we get consistent comments that one of the things they enjoyed most was the networking, the ability to feel connected to the other professionals. I don't know if people can relate to playing poker, but in poker, you're always trying to keep kind of a secret, and they call it playing close to your vest, and not letting anybody know anything. And the stupid part about that is that in a case, the more you know about the other person, the easier it becomes to solve their problem. And it just blows people away when somebody has an experience where the other attorney makes a suggestion that's beneficial to the other party. Now, the clients often don't get as much benefit out of that as the other attorney does, because the other attorney has had the experience where that other attorney would never offer anything to him or his client, or her client, that would benefit their side. The idea is always win the most toys, or he who wins the most toys wins the game. And it's, when you can get to that, because in all honesty, we have a lot of attorneys that they don't get it. They've had the training, they say they've got the credential of being a collaborative law attorney, but they're just smiling litigators. They're no different. And I won't say that collaborative isn't intense, because it is intense, and you're dealing with a lot of grief in family, because you're dealing with the loss of a relationship, a fight over money, all of the things you would deal with in a typical death. It's just the death is the relationship. But if you start to open up, and that to me is where the spirituality comes in, because I think that fear is the opposite of faith. And the more faith you have, the less fear you have. And the less fear you have, the more open you are to trust. Because the best cases are always the ones where you see the highest level of trust. And, that doesn't always come overnight, and you can't expect it to be in every case. But as you work with people, if you're able to maintain your trust integrity, you'll find that it's infectious. And it just, these little energy molecules, happy energy molecules go across, and, they make it to the other side, and something magical happens in a lot of these meetings. I remember one meeting we had that we had the financial person there. I think it was Bob. And it was a very intense case. The man was a dentist. He was very distrusting of even doing this and really didn't want to do it. He had a lot of anxiety. And he was wound up really, 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 really tight. And the tension was just building to like a crescendo.